Biodiversity refers to every living thing on Earth. Plants, animals, insects, us, everything that's alive. We rely on biodiversity for our food, air, water, medicines, building materials, and clothing. We know more and more plant and animal species are disappearing due to human activity, creating a biodiversity crisis. That's on us as humans, and so is the solution. If we want to mobilise community support to prevent further loss, we need to understand the drivers and barriers of pro-environmental behaviours.
So we wanted to find out what the general Australian community is thinking and doing when it comes to biodiversity. Do they care? Do they take any particular actions to protect the environment? And so we went and did a survey with over 4,000 people at the end of 2022, asked them a whole bunch of questions.
The questions related to concern about nature, biodiversity and the threats facing them. The results were divided into 3 outcomes.
So public behaviour, private behaviour and policy support are our outcomes. We also wanted to look at what was predictably driving or predicting these outcomes. And the 3 big things we looked at were awareness of the biodiversity crisis, so awareness of how important biodiversity is and the threats that it's facing, concern about the biodiversity crisis and the threats, and general connection with nature.
So what are these first 2 outcomes, public sphere and private sphere behaviours?
Public sphere behaviours, so things like activism, people who actually go out and volunteer and change their voting behaviour based on someone's nature-related policies. The second is private sphere behaviours, which is, I'm going to be a responsible consumer and purchase only sustainable seafood or whatever it might be, or even just things like spending time in nature.
The third outcome around policy support revealed a behaviour that is also a kind of non-behaviour depending on how you look at it. It's basically non-opposition to pro-environmental government policy. You don't really have to do anything except support the government.
The strongest relationship was between concern about biodiversity and policy support. So there's kind of an underlying social licence already for the government to either expand some of the policies that it's maybe tried in little spaces or introduce completely new things, and to know that they're not going to see the majority of people throwing up their arms and complaining about it. Most people are probably going to be quite passive and just kind of sit there and accept it and maybe clap a little bit behind their backs and say, yep, we support that. The strong level of policy support was a little bit surprising, particularly for some of our co-authors, because they have seen, I guess, a bit of pushback on some of those policies. But I think it goes to show that if you look at the whole community and not just those who are being the most noisy, you will actually find quite a reasonably high level of non-opposition.
The vast majority of Australians support the government introducing both carrots and sticks to protect and restore biodiversity. So that might mean incentives for planting trees or fines for illegally clearing their land. People also support the same issue in different ways. They may privately keep their cats indoors to protect native species, or very publicly lobby the local council to make cat curfews mandatory.
Because people do care about the environment. They want to protect nature. They see that Australia has a beautiful biodiverse environment that we should be protecting. But people also find it really difficult to know what behaviours they should do, or maybe they don't have time to do things like go out and petition and be an activist. So the easiest thing for an individual to do is not oppose a government policy that is going to have far bigger ramifications than me deciding that I'm going to choose sustainable seafood.
The strongest relationship this study found was with the more passive policy support. So there are those out there actively working to protect nature, but more of us expect that work to be done by our governments. That is the social licence we spoke about. Governments have a range of behavioural tools to better protect nature, and stronger conservation policies are unlikely to be opposed by most Australians. Thanks for watching.